The sound of breaking glass shattered the peaceful afternoon at Murphy's Corner store like a gunshot through silence. Ebony Washington looked up from organizing the magazine rack, her heart immediately racing as three men in hoodies burst through the front door. The security badge on her uniform felt heavier suddenly, but it was the sight of a little girl with curly brown hair frozen near the candy aisle that made her blood run cold. "Everyone get down," the tallest robber shouted, waving something metallic that caught the fluorescent lights. Ebony's training kicked in, but her maternal instincts kicked in harder. The little girl, maybe 6 years old, stood paralyzed with fear, clutching a bag of gummy bears to her chest. "Mommy?" the child whispered, looking around desperately. But there was no mother in sight, just Ebony, 3 armed men, and an elderly cashier who had already hit the floor behind the counter. Time slowed as Ebony made her choice. She didn't think about her own 8-year-old son Marcus waiting for her at home, or her evening shift at the diner, or the bills piling up on her kitchen table. She only saw a terrified little girl who needed protection. "Hey sweetie," Ebony said softly, moving slowly toward the child. "Come here to me, okay?" The robbers were focused on the register, shouting at the cashier to hurry up. But the little girl's movement caught their attention. One of them spun around, his face twisted with panic and desperation. "I said everyone down," he screamed, pointing his weapon toward them. Ebony didn't hesitate. She lunged forward, wrapping her arms around the little girl just as the sound exploded through the store. The impact sent them both to the ground, Ebony's body shielding the child completely. Pain bloomed across her shoulder like fire, but she held on tight. "It's okay, baby girl," she whispered into the child's ear as they lay on the cold linoleum. "You're safe now. I've got you." The robbers panicked at the sight of blood and ran, leaving with whatever cash they could grab. The store fell eerily quiet except for the little girl's soft crying and the distant sound of sirens growing closer. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Ebony asked, fighting to stay conscious as warmth spread down her arm. "Sophie," the girl whispered. "Sophie Rodriguez. My daddy's coming to get me. He's always late from work." Ebony smiled weakly. "Well, Sophie Rodriguez, you're the bravest little girl I ever met. Your daddy's going to be so proud of you." As paramedics rushed through the door, Ebony heard the screech of expensive tires outside. Through the store window, she caught a glimpse of a black Mercedes pulling up to the curb, a man in a business suit jumping out before the car even stopped completely. "Sophie," a deep voice called out desperately. "Sophie, where are you?" The last thing Ebony saw before the world went dark was a tall man with dark hair and worried eyes rushing into the store, his gaze immediately finding the little girl she had protected with her life. Nathan Rodriguez had never felt panic like this before. In boardrooms facing hostile takeovers, during company crises, even when his divorce was finalized 2 years ago, nothing compared to the terror of getting a call that his daughter was involved in an armed robbery. He burst through the store entrance to find paramedics working over a woman on the floor while Sophie sat nearby, wrapped in a blanket but physically unharmed. His knees nearly buckled with relief as his daughter looked up and saw him. "Daddy?" Sophie ran into his arms, and Nathan held her like he'd never let go again. "Are you hurt?" he asked, checking her over frantically. "Did they hurt you?" "No, Daddy. The lady saved me. She got hurt instead." Sophie pointed to where the paramedics were carefully lifting Ebony onto a stretcher. "She jumped in front of me when the bad man pointed the gun." Nathan's breath caught as he watched the paramedics work. The woman Ebony, he heard someone call her, was unconscious, her security uniform stained with blood. She was young, maybe late 20s, with beautiful dark skin and natural hair pulled back in a ponytail that had come loose during the struggle. "Sir, are you the father?" A police officer approached them. "Yes, Nathan Rodriguez. This is my daughter Sophie." He kept his arms around the little girl, who was trembling slightly. "Your daughter is incredibly lucky. That security guard threw herself between your child and the gunman without hesitation. She took the bullet that was meant for Sophie." Nathan felt something shift in his chest, a mixture of gratitude so profound it was almost painful, and a determination that surprised him with its intensity. "Which hospital are they taking her to?" he asked immediately. "General Hospital downtown, but sir, you don't need to." "Yes, I do." Nathan pulled out his phone, already dialing. "This is Nathan Rodriguez. I need you to arrange for the best trauma surgeon in the city to meet us at General Hospital immediately. Money is no object." He paused, listening to his assistant's response. "No, transfer her to St. Mary's Private Hospital instead. Make sure she has the best room, the best care, everything." The officer looked confused. "Sir, she's just a security guard. Her insurance probably." Her insurance is no longer a concern, Nathan said firmly, scooping Sophie up in his arms. That woman saved my daughter's life. I'm going to make sure she gets the care she deserves. As they followed the ambulance to the hospital, Sophie was quiet in her car seat behind him. Daddy, is the lady going to be okay? Nathan caught her eyes in the rearview mirror. I'm going to make sure she is, princess. I promise. At the hospital, Nathan paced the waiting room while Sophie colored in a book one of the nurses had given her. He had already spoken to his assistant, his lawyer, and the best trauma surgeon in the state. Money flowed like water when it came to ensuring Ebony Washington received the best possible care. Mr. Rodriguez? A doctor in scrubs approached him. I'm Dr. Chin. The surgery went very well. The bullet missed all major organs and arteries. She was incredibly lucky. When can I see her? She's being moved to a recovery room now. She should wake up in a few hours. Dr. Chin paused. Sir, I have to ask, are you family? Because the level of care you've arranged, the private room, the specialists. She saved my daughter's life, Nathan said simply. That makes her family as far as I'm concerned. When Ebony was moved to her room, Nathan was amazed at how peaceful she looked despite everything she'd been through. Sophie had fallen asleep in one of the chairs, exhausted from the day's events. Nathan pulled up a chair beside Ebony's bed and settled in to wait. He studied her face, noting the strength in her features even in sleep, the calluses on her hands that spoke of hard work, the simple gold chain around her neck with a small cross pendant. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. Ebony Washington, 28 years old, single mother to Marcus Washington, age 8. Works 2 jobs: security guard at Murphy's store and night shift at Mike's diner. No criminal record, clean credit except for some medical bills from when her son had pneumonia last year. Currently 3 months behind on rent. Nathan stared at the message, feeling something tighten in his chest. This woman had risked her life for his daughter while struggling to keep her own family afloat. She worked 2 jobs, was behind on rent, but didn't hesitate to throw herself in front of a bullet for a stranger's child. He made a decision that felt as natural as breathing. Ebony Washington and her son would never have to worry about money again. It was the least he could do for the woman who had given him back his world. Ebony woke up in what felt like a different universe. The room was spacious and bright, with actual artwork on the walls and a view of a garden instead of a parking lot. The bed was more comfortable than her mattress at home, and there were fresh flowers on the bedside table that definitely hadn't come from the hospital gift shop. Where am I? She whispered, trying to sit up despite the sharp pain in her shoulder. You're in St. Mary's private hospital, a gentle voice answered. She turned to see a man in an expensive-looking suit sitting in a chair beside her bed. He had kind brown eyes and dark hair with just a touch of gray at the temples. I'm Nathan Rodriguez. You saved my daughter. Memory came flooding back: the robbery, the little girl, the gun. Sophie. Is she okay? She's perfect thanks to you. Nathan leaned forward, his expression serious. I can never repay you for what you did, but I'd like to try. Before Ebony could respond, a small voice piped up from the corner. You're awake. Daddy, she's awake. Sophie Rodriguez appeared at the bedside, her face bright with relief. She was even prettier than Ebony remembered, with her father's brown eyes and curly hair held back with a pink headband. Hi, sweetheart, Ebony smiled despite her discomfort. How are you feeling? I'm good because you made sure I was safe, Sophie said solemnly. Daddy says you're a hero. I just did what anyone would do, Ebony said, but Nathan shook his head. No, you did what someone with an incredibly brave heart would do. Most people would have thought of their own safety first. He paused. I understand you have a son. Ebony's heart skipped. Marcus. He's 8. I need to call him, he'll be worried sick. And I need to call my jobs and tell them. I've already taken care of that, Nathan said gently. My assistant called both your employers to explain the situation. And Marcus is fine. My assistant arranged for him to stay with your neighbor Mrs. Johnson until you're released. Ebony stared at him, overwhelmed. You didn't have to do all that. I don't even know how I'm going to pay for this hospital. You're not, Nathan said firmly. Every medical bill, every treatment, every day you need to recover, it's all taken care of. I can't accept that, Ebony protested, even as relief flooded through her. That's too much. I don't take charity. It's not charity, Nathan said quietly. It's gratitude. You gave me back my daughter's life. There's no price tag on that. A nurse came in to check on Ebony, and she was startled to recognize her as one of the senior nurses she'd heard about, the kind who usually only worked with VIP patients. How's our hero doing? the nurse asked warmly, checking Ebony's four-in-one dressing with expert care. After the nurse left, Sophie climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed. "Daddy brought you flowers," she announced. "And books and magazines and really good chocolates. He said heroes deserve the best stuff." Ebony looked at Nathan, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have gone a little overboard." "A little?" Ebony gestured around the luxurious room. "This place is nicer than any hotel I've ever seen." "You deserve it," Nathan said simply. "And I want to discuss something with you when you're feeling up to it. About your future." Before Ebony could ask what he meant, Marcus burst through the door with Mrs. Johnson close behind. Her 8-year-old son was tall for his age, with her dark skin and his father's height, wearing his favorite superhero t-shirt and a worried expression. "Mama?" He rushed to her side and Ebony wrapped her good arm around him, breathing in the familiar scent of his hair. "I'm okay, baby," she whispered. "Mama's okay." "Mrs. Johnson said you got hurt saving someone," Marcus said, pulling back to look at her with serious eyes that seemed too old for his face. "This is Sophie," Ebony said, introducing the children. "And this is her daddy, Mr. Rodriguez." Nathan stood and extended his hand to Marcus, treating the 8-year-old with the same respect he'd show an adult. "Your mother is the bravest person I've ever met, Marcus. You should be very proud of her." Marcus straightened up, shaking Nathan's hand solemnly. "I already was proud of her. She works real hard for us." Ebony saw something shift in Nathan's expression as he looked at her son, a softness, an understanding that made her chest tight. "Mr. Rodriguez," she said quietly, "you mentioned wanting to discuss my future?" "When you're ready," he said. "But for now just focus on healing. Everything else can wait." As the afternoon wore on, Ebony watched Nathan with his daughter and was struck by what a devoted father he was. Despite his obvious wealth and busy schedule, he was completely present with Sophie, listening to her chatter about school and friends with genuine interest. When visiting hours ended, Nathan helped settle Sophie's coat and backpack. "We'll be back tomorrow," he promised Ebony. "And if you need anything at all, the nurses have my direct number." After they left, Ebony lay back against the pillows, her mind spinning. She'd heard of Nathan Rodriguez, of course everyone in the city had. His tech company had made him one of the youngest billionaires in the country. She'd seen his picture in the business section of newspapers, usually in connection with some charity event or business deal. But the man who had sat beside her hospital bed wasn't the untouchable billionaire from the newspapers. He was a father who had been terrified for his child, and who was now determined to help the woman who had saved her. The nurse came in with dinner, not hospital food, but something that looked like it had come from a 5-star restaurant. "Compliments of Mr. Rodriguez," she said with a smile. "He wanted to make sure you had proper nutrition to heal properly." As Ebony ate the best meal she'd had in months, she thought about Nathan's offer to discuss her future. She had no idea what a billionaire CEO could possibly want to discuss with a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to make ends meet. But as she drifted off to sleep in the most comfortable bed she'd ever experienced, surrounded by flowers and kindness, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, her act of courage might have changed more than just one little girl's life. The next morning, Ebony woke to find a small mountain of gifts on the table by the window. Balloons, stuffed animals, books, and what looked like enough chocolates to feed a small army. "What is all this?" she asked the nurse who came in with her medication. "Mr. Rodriguez has been here since 7 this morning," the nurse smiled. "He wanted to make sure you had everything you might need or want. He also left instructions that you're to have whatever food you'd like, anything at all, just let us know." Ebony stared at the gifts, feeling overwhelmed again. She wasn't used to this kind of attention or generosity. Growing up in foster care and then struggling as a single mother had taught her to be self-reliant, to not expect help from anyone. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Nathan appeared in the doorway, looking slightly uncertain. "Is it okay if I come in? I know it's early, but Sophie has been asking about you since she woke up." "Of course," Ebony said, smoothing her hospital gown self-consciously. Nathan entered, followed by Sophie, who was carrying a homemade card decorated with glittery stickers. "I made this for you," Sophie announced, climbing onto the chair beside Ebony's bed. "Daddy helped me spell the hard words." The card read, "Thank you for being my guardian angel," in careful child handwriting, with a drawing of 2 stick figures, one tall with dark skin holding hands with a smaller one with curly hair. "This is beautiful, Sophie," Ebony said, genuinely touched. "I'm going to keep this forever." Nathan cleared his throat. "I wanted to talk to you about something if you're feeling up to it." "Daddy wants to help you go to school," Sophie announced before he could continue. "Sophie," Nathan said with gentle reproach, but he was smiling. I wanted to ask first. Go to school? Ebony looked confused. Nathan pulled his chair closer. I did some research, I hope you don't mind. I learned that you've been trying to save money for nursing school. Ebony felt heat rise in her cheeks. She had mentioned that dream to exactly 3 people in her life: Mrs. Johnson, her son Marcus, and the guidance counselor at the community college who had helped her fill out financial aid applications that were later denied. How did you? Your neighbor Mrs. Johnson mentioned it when I had my assistant check on Marcus yesterday, Nathan said quickly. She said you've been talking about it for years but could never afford the tuition. Ebony nodded slowly. I've been saving what I can, but between rent and Marcus's needs, it never adds up to enough. And I can't take out loans I might not be able to pay back. What if you didn't have to worry about money? Nathan asked quietly. What if someone wanted to pay for your education because they believe you'd make an incredible nurse? Ebony stared at him. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Full tuition, books, living expenses while you're in school. Everything. That's tens of thousands of dollars, Ebony whispered. To me, it's a small price to pay for the woman who saved my daughter's life, Nathan said simply. And honestly, after seeing how you protected Sophie, I think any hospital would be lucky to have you. Ebony felt tears welling up in her eyes. I can't accept something like that. It's too much. Can I tell you something? Nathan leaned forward. When I started my company 10 years ago, I had nothing. I was working 3 jobs, sleeping on friends' couches, eating ramen noodles for every meal. A businessman named Frank Miller took a chance on me, gave me my first real investment, helped me get my business off the ground. What happened to him? He became one of my closest friends and advisors. He told me once that the best way to honor someone's help is to pass it forward when you can. Nathan's voice was soft but firm. This is me passing it forward, Ebony. Please let me do this. But what if I fail? What if I can't handle school and taking care of Marcus? Then we figure it out together, Nathan said without hesitation. You won't be doing this alone. Sophie had been listening to their conversation with the serious attention only children possess. Now she reached over and patted Ebony's hand. My daddy is really smart, she said solemnly. When he says he'll help, he always keeps his promises. Ebony looked between Nathan and Sophie, seeing the genuine care in both their faces. Everything in her wanted to say no, to insist she could handle things on her own like she always had. But for the first time in years, someone was offering her a real chance at the future she dreamed about. Okay, she whispered, then stronger. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Nathan's smile was radiant. You won't regret this. There's something else, Nathan continued. Your current living situation. Mrs. Johnson mentioned you've been having trouble with rent. Ebony's cheeks burned with embarrassment. We'll figure it out. We always do. You don't have to anymore, Nathan said gently. I'd like to help you find a better place. Somewhere safe and comfortable for you and Marcus. Somewhere you can focus on your studies without worrying about making ends meet. This time, Ebony didn't hesitate as long. Marcus deserved better than their current apartment with its leaky roof and broken heating. If Nathan was willing to help, and it meant giving her son a better life while she pursued her dreams, then she would accept with gratitude. Thank you, she said simply. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already did, Nathan said quietly. The moment you threw yourself in front of that gun to protect my daughter. A comfortable silence settled over them, broken only by Sophie humming quietly as she arranged the flowers on Ebony's bedside table. When do I get to meet Marcus properly? Sophie asked suddenly. Daddy said he's only a little bigger than me. He should be here this afternoon, Ebony said. Mrs. Johnson is bringing him after school. Good, Sophie nodded decisively. We're going to be friends. Best friends probably. Nathan caught Ebony's eye over his daughter's head, and they shared a smile. Whatever was happening between them, this strange, wonderful turn of events, it felt right. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful. 3 days later, Ebony was released from the hospital with strict instructions to rest and let her shoulder heal properly. What she found waiting for her took her breath away. Nathan had arranged for her and Marcus to move into a furnished apartment in one of the city's safest neighborhoods. It was twice the size of their old place, with actual bedrooms for both of them, a modern kitchen, and windows that looked out onto a small park where children played. Mama, is this really ours? Marcus asked, running through the rooms with excitement she hadn't seen from him in months. For now, Ebony said, still overwhelmed by Nathan's generosity. For as long as you need it, Nathan corrected gently. He was sitting on the couch, looking perfectly at home in their new living room while Sophie explored Marcus's new bedroom with him. Over the next few weeks, Nathan visited regularly, always bringing Sophie and often bringing dinner or groceries or some small gift that Marcus or Ebony had mentioned needing. He never made it feel like charity. Instead, it felt like the natural thing friends did for each other. Ebony found herself looking forward to his visits more than she wanted to admit. Nathan was different from any man she'd ever known, not just because of his wealth, but because of his genuine kindness and the way he treated both her and Marcus with such respect. "Tell me about your nursing program," Nathan said one evening as they sat on the small balcony while the children did homework at the kitchen table. "I start in 6 weeks, Ebony said, still hardly believing it was real. "It's a 2-year program, but I can do some of the prerequisites online to speed things up." "Are you nervous?" Ebony considered the question. "Terrified," she admitted. "I've been out of school for 10 years. What if I can't keep up? What if I'm too old to compete with all those 18-year-olds? Nathan turned to look at her, his expression serious. "Ebony, you're one of the strongest, most intelligent women I've ever met. You're going to be amazing." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've watched you with Sophie when she's had nightmares about the robbery. You knew exactly how to comfort her, how to help her feel safe. You have natural instincts for caring for people." He paused. "And because anyone brave enough to take a bullet for a stranger's child has the heart to handle whatever nursing school throws at her." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Can I ask you something?" Ebony said eventually. "Anything. Why are you really doing all this? I mean, I know you're grateful, but this is so much more than gratitude." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer. "Do you want the honest truth?" he asked finally. "Always. At first it was pure gratitude. You saved Sophie's life and I wanted to help you in return." He turned to meet her eyes. "But somewhere along the way it became about more than that. It became about you, who you are as a person, as a mother, as someone who works 2 jobs but still dreams about helping others. You inspire me, Ebony." Ebony felt her heart skip a beat. "Nathan, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable," he said quickly. "I just want you to know that helping you isn't a burden or an obligation for me. It's a privilege." Before Ebony could respond, Sophie appeared at the sliding door. "Daddy, Marcus is helping me with my math homework, but we're both stuck on this problem. Can you help us?" "Of course, princess." Nathan stood, then looked back at Ebony. "Think about what I said?" After Nathan and Sophie left that evening, Ebony couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. She'd been so focused on accepting his practical help that she hadn't allowed herself to consider the personal feelings that seemed to be developing between them. The truth was, she was developing feelings too. Nathan was handsome, yes, but it was more than that. He was patient with both children, never condescending despite his success and wealth. He listened when she talked about her dreams and fears, and he seemed to genuinely value her opinions on everything from Marcus's schooling to current events. But the difference in their circumstances felt overwhelming. She was a single mother who'd been living paycheck to paycheck. He was a billionaire CEO who moved in circles she couldn't even imagine. What could they possibly have in common besides the trauma that had brought them together? Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Thank you for dinner and for letting Sophie help Marcus with homework. She hasn't stopped talking about her big brother Marcus. Sweet dreams, Ebony." Ebony stared at the message, her heart doing that flutter thing again. Maybe their circumstances were different, but the way he cared for Sophie, the way he'd embraced helping her family, the easy conversation between them, maybe those things mattered more than bank accounts and social status. Maybe it was okay to let herself hope for something she'd never dared to dream about before. The next day, Nathan called while she was preparing lunch. "I have a proposition for you," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm almost afraid to ask. Sophie has been begging me to take her to the Children's Museum this weekend, and she insists that Marcus has to come too. She says it won't be any fun without her best friend and big brother." Ebony laughed. The friendship between their children had bloomed quickly and beautifully, with Sophie bringing out Marcus's protective big brother instincts and Marcus helping Sophie feel braver about trying new things. "Would you and Marcus like to join us?" Nathan continued. "Make it a family outing?" The word family hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility. "We'd love to," Ebony said softly. "Good. I'll pick you up Saturday morning at 10? Nathan," Ebony said before he could hang up. "Thank you. For everything." "Thank you," he replied quietly, "for letting me be part of your life." As Ebony hung up the phone, she realized that somewhere between the hospital visits and family dinners and quiet conversations on the balcony, Nathan Rodriguez had become much more than the grateful father of the child she'd saved. He'd become someone she was falling in love with. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear, and Ebony found herself spending more time getting ready than she had in years. It wasn't quite a date the children would be there, after all, but it felt like something important. "Mama, you look really pretty," Marcus said as she checked her reflection one more time. She'd chosen a simple sundress in deep blue that brought out her skin tone, and for once she'd had time to do something special with her hair. "Thank you, baby. Are you excited about the museum?" "Yeah. Sophie said they have a whole section about space and I can pretend to be an astronaut." When Nathan knocked on the door, Ebony's breath caught. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans and a button-down shirt, but he somehow managed to look as handsome as he did in his business suits. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, handing her a single yellow rose. Sophie picked it out. "She said it matches your smile." Ebony felt warmth spread through her chest. "She has excellent taste." The day at the museum was magical. Ebony watched Nathan get down on his hands and knees to crawl through the children's exhibit tunnels with Sophie and Marcus, saw him patiently explain how the physics demonstrations worked, witnessed him applaud enthusiastically when both children successfully completed the junior astronaut training course. But it was the quieter moments that really got to her. The way he made sure she was included in every conversation, asking her opinion on exhibits and listening to her thoughts about child development. The way he naturally took her hand when they were walking between exhibits, as if they'd been doing it for years. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention, like she was someone precious and amazing. "Are you having a good time?" he asked during lunch in the museum cafe while the children compared notes on their favorite exhibits. "The best time I've had in years," Ebony admitted. "Marcus hasn't stopped smiling all morning." "Neither have you," Nathan observed with a soft smile. After lunch, they let the children play in the museum's outdoor garden while they sat on a bench in the shade. "I have something to tell you," Nathan said, his tone becoming more serious. Ebony felt a flutter of nervousness. "Okay. I've been thinking about what we talked about the other night. About my reasons for helping you." He turned to face her fully. "I need you to know that my feelings for you have nothing to do with gratitude or obligation." "Nathan. Please let me finish." His voice was gentle but firm. "I'm falling in love with you, Ebony. With your strength, your kindness, the way you love Marcus so fiercely, the way you've made Sophie feel like part of a family again. I'm in love with who you are, not what you did for my daughter." Ebony felt tears spring to her eyes. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. Nathan's face lit up like sunrise. "Really? Really? I keep trying to tell myself it's too complicated, that we're too different, but then you do something like spend your Saturday crawling around a children's museum, and I remember that the important things aren't complicated at all." Nathan reached for her hands, holding them gently in his larger ones. "I want to take care of you and Marcus, not because I have to, but because I love you both. Is that okay?" "More than okay," Ebony said, squeezing his hands. "But I want you to know I'm not with you because of what you can provide. I'm with you because of who you are. You're kind and patient and funny, and you make both Marcus and me feel valued and loved." "We make each other feel loved," Nathan corrected. "You've given me and Sophie something we didn't even realize we were missing, a real family." They were interrupted by Sophie and Marcus running over, both chattering excitedly about the butterfly garden they'd discovered. "Can we go see it? Please?" Sophie begged, bouncing on her toes. "Of course," Nathan said, standing and offering Ebony his hand. As she took it, he leaned down and whispered, "To be continued?" "Definitely to be continued," she whispered back. The rest of the day passed in a warm haze of happiness. They walked through the butterfly garden, had ice cream from a vendor, and ended up back at Ebony's apartment for dinner. Nathan insisted on cooking, claiming he made the best spaghetti and meatballs in the city. "This is really good," Marcus said around a mouthful of pasta. "Way better than Mama's." "Marcus?" Ebony protested, laughing. "It's true." Sophie agreed. "Daddy's a really good cook. He makes me pancakes shaped like butterflies." After dinner, the children settled in the living room to watch a movie while Nathan helped Ebony clean up in the kitchen. "Thank you for today," Ebony said as they worked side by side. "It felt like..." "Like what?" "Like a real family," she said softly. Nathan stopped drying dishes and turned to face her. "It is a real family, Ebony. Maybe not traditional, but real. If you'll let it be." Before she could respond, he cupped her face gently in his hands and kissed her. It was soft and sweet and full of promise, and Ebony felt like she was coming home after a lifetime of wandering. When they broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said quietly. I love you too, she replied, meaning it with every fiber of her being. From the living room they heard Sophie's voice. Marcus, do you think your mama and my daddy are going to get married? I hope so, Marcus replied matter-of-factly. Then we'd be real brother and sister and I could protect you all the time. Nathan and Ebony looked at each other and started laughing. I think the children are ahead of us, Nathan said with a grin. They usually are, Ebony agreed, pulling him in for another kiss. 3 weeks later, Ebony was deep into her nursing program prerequisites and loving every minute of it. Nathan had been right, she was excelling academically, her natural caring instincts translating beautifully into her studies of patient care and medical procedures. How was class today? Nathan asked as he helped her carry her textbooks into the apartment. He'd started picking her up from her evening classes, claiming it wasn't safe for her to take the bus alone at night. Amazing. We learned about pediatric care today and I kept thinking about Sophie when she had that fever last week. How you stayed up all night checking on her, making sure she was comfortable. Nathan smiled. You stayed up with me. And you were the one who suggested the cool compresses that finally brought her temperature down. They'd been officially dating for 2 weeks now, though it felt like much longer. Nathan was patient and respectful, never pushing for more than she was ready for, always making sure Marcus felt included and valued. Some evenings he'd come over just to help with homework, other times they'd all go out together to dinner, to the park, to Marcus's soccer games where Nathan cheered as loudly as any parent. Mama, can Sophie sleep over this weekend? Marcus called from his room where both children were working on a science project about volcanoes. If it's okay with her daddy, Ebony called back. It's more than okay with her daddy, Nathan said quietly. She's been asking for weeks. That evening, after the children had gone to bed, Nathan and Ebony sat together on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder as they watched a movie neither was really paying attention to. Can I ask you something? Ebony said during a particularly quiet scene. Always. What was your marriage like? If you don't mind talking about it. Nathan was quiet for a moment, his hand stroking her hair gently. It wasn't a real partnership, he said finally. Elena was beautiful and charming, but she was more interested in being the wife of a successful man than in building a life together. When Sophie was born, she saw her as an accessory rather than a daughter. Ebony lifted her head to look at him. That must have been heartbreaking. The hardest part was watching Sophie try to get her mother's attention and approval. Elena was always too busy with her social events and shopping trips to really be present. Nathan's jaw tightened slightly. When she left, she didn't even want shared custody. She said Sophie would be better off with me, like our daughter was just another possession she didn't want to deal with. Sophie's lucky to have you, Ebony said softly. You're an amazing father. I try to be. But honestly, Sophie has been happier in the past 2 months with you and Marcus than she was in years with her mother. Nathan cupped Ebony's cheek. You've given her something I couldn't, a mother's love. Tears sprang to Ebony's eyes. She's given me something too. I always wanted more children, but after Marcus's father left, I didn't think it would happen. Having Sophie in our lives, it feels like getting the daughter I dreamed of. And Marcus. He's never had a positive male role model before. His father walked out when he was 2, and I've been so focused on just surviving that I didn't have time to date or find someone stable. Ebony smiled through her tears. Watching him with you, seeing how much more confident he's become, how he lights up when you praise him for something. Nathan, you've given him something precious. Nathan pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. We've given each other everything, haven't we? Everything, she agreed. The next morning, Ebony woke to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. She found Nathan making pancakes shaped like butterflies while both children sat at the counter, helping him flip them and chattering about their weekend plans. Morning, beautiful, Nathan said, leaning over to kiss her cheek as she entered the kitchen. Morning, Mama, both children chorused, and Ebony's heart skipped at hearing Sophie call her that so naturally. Are you sure you want to take on a sleepover? Ebony asked Nathan as they prepared breakfast together. 2 excited 8-year-olds can be a lot to handle. Are you kidding? I'm looking forward to it. Besides, he lowered his voice so only she could hear, it'll be good practice for when we have our own sleepovers. Ebony blushed, swatting him playfully with a dish towel. Nathan Rodriguez. What? I'm talking about when we're married and living together officially. Where did your mind go? He grinned teasingly. The word, married, hung in the air between them, and Ebony felt her heart speed up. Are we talking about getting married? She asked quietly. Nathan's expression grew serious. I am if you are. I know it's only been 2 months since we met, but Ebony, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I want to marry you. I want to adopt Marcus if he'll let me, and I want you to adopt Sophie. I want us to be a real family, legally and officially. Before Ebony could respond, Marcus appeared at her elbow. Can I call Nathan Dad, if he's going to be my dad for real? He asked with the directness only children possess. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. You can call me Dad right now if you want to, buddy. You don't have to wait for paperwork. Cool. Dad, can you teach me how to throw a curveball like you promised? Absolutely, son. Sophie climbed down from her stool and wrapped her arms around Ebony's waist. And I can call you Mom? I would love that more than anything, sweetheart, Ebony said, her own eyes misty. Nathan caught her gaze over the children's heads. Is that a yes to my proposal? That wasn't much of a proposal, Ebony said with a watery laugh. You're right, Nathan said, suddenly looking nervous. Give me a chance to do it properly? Daddy's going to propose. Sophie squealed, bouncing excitedly. Not if he keeps talking about it instead of doing it, Marcus said pragmatically. Nathan laughed, pulling Ebony into his arms right there in the kitchen, with pancakes cooling on the stove and 2 children as witnesses. Ebony Washington, he said, his voice full of love and certainty, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you and Marcus, and will you be Sophie's mom and my partner in everything? Yes, Ebony whispered, then louder, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. As Nathan kissed her and the children cheered, Ebony marveled at how much her life had changed. 4 months ago, she was struggling to pay rent and wondering how she'd ever achieve her dreams. Now she was engaged to the love of her life, pursuing her nursing degree, and about to become mother to 2 beautiful children instead of 1. All because she'd been brave enough to protect a little girl she'd never met before. Despite her joy about the engagement, Ebony found herself struggling with doubt in the weeks that followed Nathan's proposal. It hit her at random moments when she was studying in the beautiful apartment Nathan provided, when she attended a faculty dinner at his company where everyone knew exactly who he was and who she used to be, when she overheard whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when she approached. You're awfully quiet tonight, Nathan observed as they walked through the park near their apartment after dinner. The children had run ahead to the playground, their laughter echoing through the evening air. Just thinking, Ebony said, but Nathan knew her well enough by now to recognize when something was bothering her. About what? Ebony hesitated. She didn't want to seem ungrateful or insecure, but the doubts had been eating at her for days. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough for you, she said quietly. I mean really enough. Long term. Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression concerned. What do you mean? You could have anyone, Nathan. Someone with money, education, social connections. Someone who fits into your world without having to learn which fork to use first. Ebony wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling exposed. What if you wake up one day and realize you settled for someone who used to work 2 jobs just to pay rent? Nathan was quiet for a long moment, and Ebony's heart sank. Maybe her doubts weren't so unreasonable after all. Come here, he said finally, leading her to a bench under a streetlight. Do you remember what you told me about why you wanted to become a nurse? He asked once they were seated. Because I want to help people heal, Ebony said, confused by the change of subject. And do you remember what I said about Frank Miller, the investor who helped me when I was starting out? That the best way to honor someone's help is to pass it forward. Right. But there's something else Frank taught me. Nathan took her hands in his. He told me that success isn't about how much money you make or what social circles you move in. It's about the kind of person you choose to be when no one's watching. Nathan gestured toward the playground where Marcus was carefully helping Sophie reach the top of the climbing structure, staying close to make sure she didn't fall. Your son over there? He learned that protective instinct from you. He learned kindness and generosity and putting others first from watching you work 2 jobs to support him, from seeing you give your time to help elderly Mrs. Johnson with her groceries even when you were exhausted, from witnessing you throw yourself in front of a bullet to save a stranger's child. Tears started forming in Ebony's eyes. Sophie has nightmares sometimes, Nathan continued. Not about the robbery anymore but about you getting hurt. Do you know what she tells me when I comfort her? She says she wants to be brave like you when she grows up. She wants to help people like you do. Nathan. I don't want someone who fits into my world, Ebony. I want someone who makes my world better. Someone who reminds me what's actually important when I get caught up in business deals and board meetings. Someone whose first instinct is always to protect and care for others. He cupped her face gently. I want you. Not some version of you that's been polished to fit society expectations, but you exactly as you are. But what about all those people who whisper when they think I can't hear? The ones who call me your charity case? Nathan's jaw tightened. Has someone actually said that to you? Not directly. But I've heard the whispers at company events. That's the security guard he's dating. She must be very grateful for everything he's done for her. I wonder how long it will last. Ebony, look at me. Nathan's voice was firm but gentle. Those people don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. The only opinions that matter are ours and Marcus's and Sophie's. We're a family. We love each other. Everything else is just noise. A comfortable silence settled between them as they watched their children play together, Sophie's delighted squeals mixing with Marcus's patient encouragement. I talked to my therapist about this, Ebony admitted quietly. About feeling like I don't deserve all this happiness. Nathan nodded encouragingly. What did she say? That maybe the problem isn't that I don't deserve it, but that I'm not used to receiving it. She said growing up in foster care and then struggling as a single mother taught me to expect hardship, so when good things happen they feel too good to be true. That makes sense, Nathan said thoughtfully. What else did she say? That loving relationships aren't about deserving or earning. They're about choosing each other every day and building something together. Ebony smiled through her tears. She asked me if I thought you were with me out of pity or obligation. And? I told her no. That I can see in your eyes that you love me for real. That you light up when I walk into a room, that you ask for my opinion on important things, that you celebrate my successes in school like they're your own achievements. Nathan squeezed her hands. Because they are my achievements too. When you ace an exam or help a classmate understand a difficult concept, I'm proud because the woman I love is brilliant and kind and determined. Your successes make me happy because I love you. I love you too, Ebony said, feeling the weight of her doubts beginning to lift. I'm sorry for being insecure. Don't apologize for having very human feelings, Nathan said firmly. But promise me something? What? Promise me that when those doubts creep in, you'll talk to me about them instead of suffering alone. We're partners now. We face things together. I promise, Ebony said, meaning it completely. Nathan stood and pulled her to her feet, wrapping his arms around her in a hug that felt like coming home. Besides, he murmured into her hair, if anyone should be worried about being enough, it should be me. I'm marrying a woman who's brave enough to take a bullet for someone else's child, smart enough to excel in one of the most demanding academic programs while raising a son, and generous enough to love my daughter like her own from day one. I'm the one who should be wondering what I did to deserve you. Ebony pulled back to look at him, seeing nothing but love and sincerity in his eyes. We deserve each other, she said firmly. We're good together. We make each other better. We do, Nathan agreed, leaning down to kiss her softly. Mom? Dad? Sophie called from the top of the playground equipment. Look how high I am. We see you, princess. Nathan called back. Be careful up there. Marcus is making sure I don't fall, she responded, grinning down at them. Ebony watched her son because Marcus was hers now, officially and completely guide Sophie safely down the slide, and felt her heart swell with pride and love. This was her family. This was her life. She was enough and she was loved and she was exactly where she belonged. 2 months later, Ebony had completed her prerequisites with straight A's and was preparing to start the full nursing program. Nathan had been talking about planning a proper proposal for weeks, insisting that his kitchen proposal, while heartfelt, wasn't worthy of the woman he loved. I want to do something special, he told her repeatedly. Something you'll want to tell our grandchildren about. What Ebony didn't know was that Nathan had been planning meticulously with help from 2 very enthusiastic accomplices, Marcus and Sophie. Are you sure she's going to like it? Sophie asked for the 10th time as they decorated the pavilion in Riverside Park where Ebony had saved her life 4 months earlier. She's going to love it, Nathan assured her, hanging string lights while Marcus arranged the flowers they'd picked out together, yellow roses like the one Nathan had given Ebony on their first official outing. And you're sure the ring is pretty enough? Marcus asked, carefully positioning the small table in the center of the pavilion. Nathan smiled and pulled the velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal the elegant solitaire diamond ring inside. It wasn't the largest or most expensive ring he could have bought, but it was perfect, classic, beautiful, and exactly what Ebony would love. It's perfect, Sophie declared, admiring the way the diamond caught the afternoon sunlight. Mama's going to cry happy tears. Meanwhile, across town, Ebony was being thoroughly pampered at the spa Nathan had surprised her with that morning. I don't understand why you insisted I needed a spa day today, she said into her phone as she relaxed during a massage. We're just having a family picnic dinner in the park. Because you've been working so hard with school and you deserve to be spoiled, Nathan said, trying not to sound as nervous as he felt. Just enjoy being pampered for once. After the spa, Ebony returned home to find a beautiful sundress laid out on her bed, the same deep blue color as the dress she'd worn to the children's museum, but more elegant, with delicate lace details and a flowing skirt. There was a note attached, "For the most beautiful woman in the world. I love you." Ebony smiled, her heart fluttering with happiness and just a touch of suspicion. Nathan was up to something, but she had no idea what. When Nathan and the children picked her up that evening, both kids were practically vibrating with excitement. "You look so pretty, Mama," Sophie exclaimed, bouncing in her booster seat. "Really pretty," Marcus agreed. "Dad said you were going to look beautiful, and he was right." "Thank you, both of you," Ebony said, catching Nathan's eye in the rearview mirror. "You all seem very excited about a picnic." "It's going to be the best picnic ever," Sophie declared, then clapped her hands over her mouth as if she'd said too much. Ebony raised an eyebrow at Nathan, who just smiled mysteriously. When they arrived at Riverside Park, Nathan led them toward the pavilion where it had all started. As they got closer, Ebony gasped. The entire structure was decorated with twinkling lights and yellow roses, transformed into something magical. "Nathan, what is all this?" she asked, her heart beginning to race. "This is where our story began," Nathan said, taking her hand as they walked toward the pavilion. "This is where a brave, beautiful woman saved my daughter's life and changed all of our lives forever." Marcus and Sophie positioned themselves at the edge of the pavilion, both grinning from ear to ear. "4 months ago, I thought my life was complete," Nathan continued, leading Ebony to the center of the decorated space. "I had my work, I had Sophie, and I thought that was enough. But then I met you and I realized I'd been settling for a half-life." Ebony felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. "You brought light into our world, Ebony. You brought love and laughter and the kind of warmth I didn't even know we were missing. You made Sophie feel safe and loved in a way she never had before. You gave Marcus the father he deserved. And you gave me the love of my life." Nathan dropped to one knee and pulled out the ring box, and Ebony gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Ebony Washington, you are the strongest, most beautiful, most loving woman I have ever known. You make me want to be a better man, a better father, a better partner. You've shown me what real love looks like, the kind that puts others first, the kind that sacrifices for those you care about, the kind that builds something beautiful together." "Nathan," Ebony whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Will you marry me, Ebony? Will you be my wife, my partner, my best friend for the rest of our lives? Will you let me love you and Marcus and Sophie every single day until my last breath?" "Yes," Ebony said through her tears. "Yes, of course, yes." Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and stood to kiss her as Marcus and Sophie cheered and hooped from their position at the edge of the pavilion. "We're going to be a real family," Sophie squealed, running over to hug both of them. "We already are a real family," Marcus said, joining the group hug with 8-year-old wisdom. "Now it's just going to be official." As the 4 of them stood together in the place where it all began, surrounded by flowers and twinkling lights, Ebony marveled at the journey that had brought them here. She'd acted on instinct that day 4 months ago, never imagining that saving one little girl would lead to gaining a whole family. "I love you," she whispered to Nathan as they swayed together, the children playing around their feet. "I love you too," he replied, holding her close. "Forever and always." "Forever and always," she agreed, looking down at the beautiful ring on her finger and knowing that sometimes, the most ordinary moments could lead to the most extraordinary love stories. 6 months later, on a perfect spring morning, Ebony Washington became Ebony Rodriguez in a ceremony that was everything she had never dared to dream of. The wedding was held in the garden of Nathan's estate with close friends and family in attendance, but the most important guests were Marcus and Sophie, who served as ring bearer and flower girl. "Do you, Ebony, take Nathan to be your husband, to love and cherish in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live?" the minister asked. "I do," Ebony said, her voice strong and clear despite the happy tears in her eyes. "Do you, Nathan, take Ebony to be your wife, to love and cherish in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Nathan replied, his own voice thick with emotion. "You may kiss the bride." As Nathan kissed his new wife, Marcus and Sophie cheered louder than anyone, and Ebony knew that this was the beginning of the life she had always hoped for but never believed possible. The reception was a joyful celebration, with dancing and laughter and speeches that left everyone in tears. But the moment that meant the most to Ebony came during the father-daughter dance, when Nathan danced first with Sophie, then asked Marcus to join them, and finally invited Ebony into their circle. "This is our family," Nathan whispered as all four of them swayed together on the dance floor. "This is our forever." Later that evening, after the guests had gone home and the children were tucked into bed in their new shared home, Ebony and Nathan sat on the terrace overlooking the garden, still in their wedding clothes, sharing a quiet moment together. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Nathan said, testing out the sound of her new name. "I like the way that sounds," Ebony replied, snuggling closer to her new husband. "Any regrets?" Nathan asked teasingly. "Only that I didn't meet you sooner," Ebony said without hesitation. "Though I suppose we met exactly when we were supposed to. Do you ever think about that day? About what would have happened if you hadn't been working at the store, or if you had hesitated even for a second?" Ebony considered the question seriously. "Sometimes. But then I remember what you told me about Frank Miller, that the best way to honor someone's help is to pass it forward. Maybe everything that happened to me before was preparing me for that moment. All the struggles, all the hard times, all the times I had to be braver than I felt, maybe it was all leading to the moment when I could save Sophie and find my family." Nathan lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her wedding ring. "I'm grateful every single day for your courage. I'm grateful every single day for your kindness," Ebony replied. "You could have just paid my hospital bills and walked away. Instead, you gave me a whole new life." "We gave each other a new life," Nathan corrected gently. 1 year later, Ebony graduated from nursing school with honors, with Nathan, Marcus, and Sophie cheering from the audience. She had already accepted a position at Children's Hospital, working in the pediatric wing where she could combine her natural caregiving instincts with her professional training. "I'm so proud of you, Mama," Sophie said that evening as they celebrated at Ebony's favorite restaurant. "I'm proud of you too, Mom," Marcus added. "You worked really hard for this." "We all worked hard for this," Ebony said, looking around the table at her family. "We're a team." "The best team ever," Sophie declared, and Nathan raised his glass of sparkling cider in a toast. "To Ebony Rodriguez, RN, the bravest, smartest, most loving woman in the world, and the best wife and mother a family could ask for." "To our family," Ebony countered, "and to second chances and to the moment that changed everything." As they clinked glasses and laughed together, Ebony reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. She thought about the scared single mother she had been just 2 years ago, working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet, dreaming of a better future but not sure how to achieve it. Now she was a registered nurse with a career she loved, a wife to a man who cherished her, and a mother to 2 beautiful children who filled her days with joy and laughter. She lived in a beautiful home, had financial security she had never experienced before, and most importantly, she was surrounded by love every single day. But the greatest gift wasn't the material comfort or even the professional achievement. The greatest gift was the family they had built together. Marcus, who now had the father figure he had always needed. Sophie, who had found the mother's love she had been missing. Nathan, who had discovered that true partnership was about much more than convenience or compatibility. And Ebony herself, who had learned that love could multiply rather than divide. That opening her heart to one more child hadn't diminished her love for Marcus but had expanded her capacity for love altogether. That night, as she tucked both children into their beds in the house they all shared, Ebony marveled at how perfectly they fit together as a family. Marcus and Sophie had become true siblings, protective of each other, sharing secrets and adventures, squabbling occasionally but always making up within minutes. "Mama?" Sophie said sleepily as Ebony finished reading their bedtime story. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad you saved me that day. I'm glad too, baby girl. But I'm more glad that you became my mama. That's the best part." Ebony felt her heart squeeze with love. "Being your mama is the best part for me too." Later, as she and Nathan prepared for bed, Ebony caught sight of herself in the mirror and hardly recognized the confident, radiant woman looking back at her. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Just, all of it. How different everything is now. How happy we all are. Do you miss anything about your old life?" Ebony considered the question seriously. "I miss the simplicity sometimes. Life was hard but it was straightforward: work, take care of Marcus, survive until tomorrow. Now there are school events and business dinners and vacation planning and college funds to think about." She leaned back against Nathan's chest. "But I wouldn't trade any of it. Not for anything. Even when Marcus and Sophie gang up on us about getting a puppy?" Ebony laughed. "Even then. Especially then because it means they're acting like real siblings. Nathan kissed the top of her head. Thank you. For what? For saying yes to all of it. For taking a chance on us, for letting me help, for building this beautiful life with me. For being exactly who you are. Thank you for seeing who I could be when I couldn't see it myself, Ebony replied. For believing in me, for loving Marcus like your own son, for making Sophie feel like she's always belonged to me. As they settled into bed together, Ebony thought about the conversation she'd had with her therapist earlier that week about gratitude and growth. I used to think that surviving was enough, she had told Dr. Patricia. Just getting through each day, making sure Marcus was fed and safe and loved. I thought that was all I could hope for. And now I understand that surviving was just the foundation. It prepared me to do more than just exist. It prepared me to live fully, to love deeply, to build something beautiful. What do you think changed? I learned to accept help. I learned that accepting love and support doesn't make me weak or dependent. It makes me part of something bigger than myself. Now, lying next to her sleeping husband with her children safe down the hall, Ebony whispered a prayer of gratitude to whatever force in the universe had put her in that store on that particular day. She was grateful for her courage, but more than that, she was grateful for the love that had grown from it. In the morning, she would wake up and make breakfast for her family, help the children get ready for school, kiss Nathan goodbye as he left for work, and head to the hospital where she would spend her day caring for sick children and their worried parents. It was a life full of purpose and meaning, built on a foundation of love and mutual support. But tonight, she simply held on to this moment of perfect contentment, knowing that the best part wasn't just that they had found each other, but that they had chosen to build a life together based on love, respect, and gratitude. The scared single mother who had thrown herself in front of a gun to save a stranger's child couldn't have imagined this ending to her story. But Ebony Rodriguez, wife and mother and nurse, knew that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with a single act of courage, and grow into forever through the daily choice to love each other well. Outside their window, the city slept peacefully, and inside their home, a family that had found each other in the most unexpected way dreamed of all the tomorrows they would share together.